Good day, everybody. This is Zanda Hilger, and I coordinate the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging and Dallas Area Agency on Aging, the North Central Texas Caregiver Teleconnection. Been doing this for about 5 years, and this is a particular session we do every year because it really is about you. We talk about what's working for you this year, what your challenges are, and maybe get a little bit of help and support for one another during this very busy time of the year. This hits me at a particularly interesting time because I'm actively caregiving now. My husband came home from 6 weeks of surgery and then a nursing home stay, and then an emergency room for a laceration on his head, then to another rehab facility, then back to the hospital. Anyway, that has now settled down. He's been here since Thursday, but I find myself in that position once again of juggling. So some of what you may be experiencing, I can certainly identify right now. My background is I've been doing caregiver teleconnection and also caregiver services through the area agencies on aging for more than 20 years now. I've done a lot of support groups, and I also have written a curriculum, and there is a website that I manage. So I come to you on the shoulders of many caregivers who have been where you are, although there's no average caregiver. We're all at different places. So today, the idea is to open up the discussion. And I always like to start this particular session each year with giving you a chance to talk about, and please do participate. What do you most look forward to during this time of the year? What do you look forward to? What do you look forward to? You can type in the chat, and I'm going to type in food and family and friends. That's what I most look forward to. How about the rest of you? What do you look forward to this time of the year? And you should be able to, there we go, time with community, cooking, baking, and my kids being home, family. Hearing a lot of, seeing a lot of that family. Cooking, baking, and my kids being home. I assume, Nechitra, that you mean adult children? Is that what you're meaning? Excuse me for not pronouncing yes, your adult children. Anybody else, what do you look forward to the most during this time of the year? Okay, let's turn it around. What do you most, let's be honest here, what do you most not look forward to, or dread looking forward to, or you find is going to be particularly difficult and challenging this year, especially because of your caregiving responsibilities? So we're still talking about what people are looking forward to, family get-togethers, blood family getting together. So what do you not look forward to? Okay. And someone has written, nope, not looking forward to family get-togethers. Additional stress. Stress. What else do you not look forward to? I'm going to say that the first thing I said is food, family, and friends. Someone said, I'm not caregiving right now, but I will miss my mother being apart from the family gathering. She is in a nursing facility. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to say, see if you agree with this, that those things that I don't look forward to are just flipped the ones that I do. family, friends, food. I look forward to them, but I also am not that crazy because with food, there's the challenge to eat too much or to feel that you have to do more of the food, providing the food than maybe you would like to. Family, many families have at least one person that may create some challenges for you. And friends sometimes don't know how to relate to us when we are a caregiver. They may hold back or they may over ask or over uh, decide to tell you. And I don't know about you, but one of my biggest challenges is I tend to push back when somebody says to me, you need to. Someone wrote, trying to find the time to see everyone and get everything done at my house. Anybody else want to contribute to that? That's a good one. Well, what we find is this obviously is a very different time of the year. Things tend to be out of balance, shall we say. And so part of our challenge is to learn how to balance what we can do and what we're not able to do, or we have to do it in a different way. For those of you, I've got some materials to share with you, but I want to hear from you. You've heard some of the challenges that people have. How have you learned to deal with some of those so that other people can benefit from your experience trying to find time to see everyone? You've got someone in a facility. I'm not looking forward to time with my blood family, the additional stress, and just not looking forward to it. So does anybody have any thoughts on how you are dealing with or have done with some of those challenges? And Minerva, they can, so that they can participate.
They can unmute themselves if they want to. You can either do *6 or just unmute yourself.
There you go.
We had 2 comments on the chat box.
Okay, very good. And the unmute is the lower left-hand corner. Somebody suggested saying no to some invitations. Absolutely. One of the challenges of many caregivers is they, by their nature, have trouble saying no. And I remember being in a class one time and we were talking about this. And so we actually practiced saying no. And I shared with them a training class I'd been in. And this woman was saying there very often is a difference between how men say no and women say no. Now, I don't know if this is true for everyone, just sharing something she said. And she said, men have a tendency to say no. But women will say something along the lines of, no, because, or no, and they start coming up with some kind of a defensive reason they can't do it. We may have a problem with just saying no. We want to feel like we have to justify that. Can you find yourself that you might be guilty of that? And we're just giving out more energy than maybe we don't have. I found myself sliding back into that with something someone assumed that maybe I could do because I had set up a Zoom class or a Zoom meeting. And one of the people said, well, you did such a great job doing this. Maybe you can do that. So I said no, but then I launched into all of those reasons of my caregiving. It's not necessary. All right, another comment, and listen to this one carefully, all of us caregivers. Some stress is self-imposed. Some self-imposed. Doris, would you like to add any more to that statement? I'm sure we can get a lot of traction from that statement from others. Anybody have anything to say about that statement? Some stress is self-imposed?
Yeah, this is Nikisha. I think a lot of times we're used to handling everything
Mhm,
and we don't know how to let go.
mhm. Absolutely. Don't know how because it's a habit. It's become a habit for us. There are many of us too that we are used to doing something, doing all of these activities, whether it's in our family or caregiving, and sometimes we are reluctant to let it go because somebody else won't do it like we do. Has anybody been guilty of that? They are going to do it differently. Is it better? Is it worse? No, it's just different. So, is that something to take a look at? Am I putting myself under more stress by expecting others to do it my way? And maybe there's another way. It's a very, that's a very good one. Overdoing. Caregivers frequently are. My experience is that most caregivers are responsible. Most of them are very organized. They have a particular way. They do care. But let me pose a question. Do you think there's such a thing as over caring? What do you think? Is there such a thing as over caring? I'll share what might be the case in mine. My husband had back surgery and then there were some complications. And what our surgeon said even before the surgery is he looked at him and he said, when you get home, you are going to be in rehab. And if you want a ham sandwich, you're going to get up and get it. And if you want a drink of water, you're going to get up and get it, not her. And that statement really struck home with me because I don't think I've ever heard a physician say that. But I know, and perhaps you do too, as long as he is capable of doing that, and in some of your cases, the person may not be capable because of their dementia or because some physical limitation, but if they don't make an effort, then they're not going to get better. They're not going to get more strength back. They're not going to get more stamina back. In the case of some degrees of dementia, the person may still be able to do some things. Example, even with sometimes more advanced dementia or Alzheimer's, a couple of the things that I've heard done is that you give that person that you're caring for, you give them some laundry to fold. Now, it may be the exact same laundry that they folded the day before, but it gives them, you may have to guide them and they may not fold it the way they used to. But the idea is to keep them as involved as they possibly can in their own lives. That said, we have to be careful with that one. I had a client once and she was so frustrated because she would go into her mother's room and her mother lived with her. And she would get out her gown and she would make sure there was a fresh towel in the bathroom. And she said, Mom, it's time to take a shower. So she would come back, the gown would still be on the bed, the towel would still be folded, and her mother would be sitting there. And she said, I thought you were supposed to take a shower. And she would get very frustrated. Her voice would go up. So we kind of broke that down a little. Her mother was at that stage of her Alzheimer's that she couldn't do the steps of taking a shower. So what my client did, let's call her Jane, Jane broke down, first of all, the gown. Mom, here's your gown. How about a shower? And she would, how about let's go into the bathroom? And she would break down the shower into little bites, little pieces that her mom could do. And at that stage, she could probably do 3, but we know it would come to the point where she wouldn't be able to do any of those. So, and then it would be okay. And in the shower, she would stand by. Did she still remember how to wash herself? So think in terms of where that person is in their dementia, as the case may be. And we know that most of you listening are caring for someone with dementia, but think in terms of what they can understand. They are changing from the person that you knew. I want to refer you to, and I'm going to send a link to this. There is a theory and some research called retrogenesis, and you don't have to write that down. You're going to be getting that at the end of this session. And what retrogenesis means is that in the case of dementia and Alzheimer's, the person starts going back to an earlier stage of growth or development. Example, in most cycles or the progress of dementia, if you look back, that person will start losing many of their very basic skills to the point that at some stages that people get to, patients get to, they no longer can tie their shoes or can put on their clothing or whatever. And what this retrogenesis is there's actually a chart that is almost the equivalent to the age of that person and what they're able to do. And I remember when I saw that, I thought, this is helpful for families because, especially at the holidays, because if my family member can only do putting a puzzle together, for example, maybe there is a child in the family that they could sit and do a puzzle with, probably a block puzzle. We're not talking 1,000 pieces, but I was really intrigued by that idea. And it's not a lack of respect for the person we care for. It's not a lack of love. It's trying to adjust our reality to what their reality is and responding in kind. So that's something you might think about, at least, kind of, uh, uh, maybe you can kind of rattle it around in your mind and think, now that's interesting. Okay, so has anybody had that experience yet of what I'm talking about, of someone at a different stage of development and that they are losing some of those skills, but by doing something like what I'm talking about, they have an opportunity to participate. And I've moved to another screen, so I may have lost some of your comments. Is everybody still there? I hope I didn't lose you.
Still here.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Anybody got it? Can you relate to that? Does that make sense to you? Or do you think, no, that's not recognize their dignity? Can anybody relate to that?
Well, I guess I'll comment again. This is Nikisha, and
Please.
I'm no longer a caregiver. My mom passed, but I
Yes,
work
ma'am.
in the field now.
Uh-huh.
But my mom was a nurse, and so
Yes.
she developed vascular dementia.
Uh-huh.
And it was like those things, high complex things she could do. She
Mm-hmm.
got to the point where she couldn't, like you said, give herself a bath, wash
Mm-hmm.
her hair. So
Mm-hmm.
to assist her with those things, she would become frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
I would get frustrated because I wanted my mom back the way she
Of
was.
course.
That was just part of the process, even though
Mm-hmm.
it was,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was hard for both of us, but
Mm-hmm.
probably me as her baby daughter taking
Right.
care of her. it was really something that still, it's something that still sticks with me today. And then
Right.
coming up on the holidays,
Hmm.
having all those memories, it's difficult. So,
And
yeah.
it's painful. It's very
Yeah.
painful. And what you're touching on too, is especially during the holidays, the sense of loss and the grief. My mother has been gone for 9 years, and I still miss her. She didn't particularly like the holidays, but I always spent at least part of Christmas Day with her. And my life is so much different now. And there is a grief process. And I'm sure that may be true for a lot of you. Some of you may have learned to set it aside and you don't even acknowledge it as grief anymore. It's just, okay, that was maybe it wasn't your parent, maybe it was somebody not as close as that. But we're going to talk in a couple of minutes about how we can deal with some of those very often conflicting experiences. Doris has said, my partner no longer reads, so I read to him occasionally. What kinds of materials do you read to him? Doris? Is Doris still with us?
Right now, I'm reading to him a play which is in couplets, so it all rhymes.
Oh, fascinating. And he responds to that.
Hard to tell.
Hard to tell. And
Yeah.
how long do you find that you can read before either you are frustrated or you think you've lost him anyway?
15 or 20 minutes, maybe.
Okay. And are you a reader yourself? And so you read other things as you can when you have the time?
Definitely. Yes.
Okay. One idea that you might have that for a holiday gathering is when the family's together, or maybe when there's a group of children together, perhaps have one of them read one of the Christmas stories or take turns with pages of the Christmas stories. Or if your care receiver, is a case of mine, his is not a mental, or he doesn't have a dementia. He's had some issues coming back from 7 hours of anesthesia. But one of the things that he could do is he could read to the grandsons. One of the grandsons will be here this afternoon because he and his dad are coming to help us out. So if that's possible, that you've got someone that's functioning at a level they could read to the kids, or the kids could even read to them. Another technique, and again, it's going to depend on the level of the cognitive or the thinking ability and the speaking ability of your care receiver, but to capture family histories is sometimes now is a good time to do that, is record a story, for example. And sometimes these stories can serve two purposes. One of the purposes is it shares the history of someone to especially another family member. As you all know, it's not unusual as many people get older, they do a lot of reminiscing, about the good old days. Well, here's one that could serve two purposes, but a word of caution with it. Dad, I have heard, or Grandpa, I have heard you talk about you and Uncle George taking the family car. You really couldn't drive, but you knew where the keys were, and everybody was out in the country. And so you get in the car and you go joyriding down the road and you end up in a ditch. And so everybody was all upset because they had to get you out of the ditch. And Grandpa or the uncle starts nodding his head, yes, yes, yes. And he goes on with that story. Or you notice as you tell that story, there are tears in his eyes. And you can't know this person well enough to know this is a source of distress. Well, here's an idea that can redirect them to something else. You know, you talked about George. Don't you think in a lot of ways he's like our Andrew? You know, my grandson Andrew, he's always he's impulsive. And did I tell you what he did last week when we couldn't find him? And on and on and on. In other words, you can take that story and either can be a source of happy or laughter, or it can be a source of pain. When something is a source of pain, redirect that, especially if you can redirect and connect it to something that's real. Connect it to something in the here and now. And it's particularly helpful if you can draw that connection between that event and a family member now. I hope that makes sense to everybody. So think in those terms. How can you keep things connected, keep things going, and keep them involved? Anybody got any comments on that? How do you deal with reminiscing? Or is that even something for you that you've had to face? One of our blogs I would like to refer to now, and you'll get links to this. The first statement is fill your own tank first. We can't, and another way to look at that, many of you perhaps have been to support groups or to education programs. You've seen the picture of the face mask that drops down on a flight. The announcement is if the cabin loses pressure, the face mask will drop down, and that actually is before the flight, of course. And who are you to put the face mask on first? Yourself. Although our natural instinct is to put it on a loved one, especially a child. But if you put it on a child and you're gasping for air, you can't help them. And it's the same way with fill your tank first. We can't run on empty. We have to find a way, and that was one of my challenges while my husband was in the hospital and in rehab, is finding a way to balance my need or my desire to be with him versus what I needed to do for myself. I have diabetes, and I knew that was a challenge and that I needed to take better care of myself physically as well as emotionally and mentally. I tried to rest whenever I could. I would carry snacks around, but I didn't always remember to do that. But there were many times I would go down to the vending machine. And sometimes I was very aware of what I was doing, but I tried to make sure at least once a day I have breakfast of Glucerna, which is something for diabetics. Did I take care of myself the way I would hope you would? No, but I did the best I could under the circumstances. So fill your tank first. Make sure you have at least one other person you can reach out to. I'm extremely fortunate. I've got a best friend, but I also have many gal pals that offered to talk, offered to help. One of them wanted to bring me sushi because that was our thing. We like to meet and have sushi together, and we'll have these long drawn out lunches. But to me, sushi was about that experience. So I wanted to kick that down the road so that could be something I could look forward to, which is another thing that you could do. Have some things to look forward to. Having somebody to listen to, hopefully many of you have taken advantage of support groups and support groups that are either live or they're online. I'm a licensed counselor by trade, and I did a lot of video counseling. It was very effective. Before that, I did some telephone counseling through my work with the Area Agency on Aging. again, very effective. Most of these people I have never met, all of them I've not met. And yet there were some really positive outcomes for those caregivers out of video counseling. And I wouldn't say I would definitely recommend computer counseling, not phone, because it's helpful to see the person. Okay, how about adjusting holiday meals? That might be making sure the foods that you purchase or that you ask people to bring maybe take less time or they're more prepared. That cleanup is easier. We moved to more here at my house, even though I'm a big believer in sustainability for this short term that we're going to be dealing with his recovery. We relied a lot more on paper plates. We used our silverware, but we did paper plates. Think about if you are the one, let me tell you, share with you a story that what came out of a support group that I did some years ago now, but it was in December, like now, and we were talking about this very topic. What do you do in the run up to the holidays to prepare yourself and your environment for this holiday? And one woman was very upset, visibly upset. And she said, I always host the holiday. And my husband always cooks the turkey and I do the sides. And that's something we've always done and we loved it. But this year, his Alzheimer's has progressed to where he no longer can do that. And I just don't know what to do because I want to, but I know I can't do as much. And so there were a lot of ideas that were thrown out, ideas such as don't do as much. But the one idea that came up was how about, and this was probably 10 years ago, I think things are changing, but somebody said, how about asking the adults in your family to help you? Have them all bring something. Have them bring the sides or the desserts. What one thing do you think that you could handle that you really want to do? And so in her case, there was one casserole dish that the family loved, and she said, I can do that. So in January, we met again. It was a monthly group, and she could not wait to tell us about the holiday. She said all she did is send an email, could just as well have been a phone call or a text or who knows, to the adult children. And she was just honest with them that she really needs help. And that, fellow caregivers, is sometimes the biggest hurdle, being willing to admit and to ask for help and then accept it with grace. And she said they immediately took over. They not only planned the menu and who's going to bring what, but there were some of the adults that came over and cleaned the house and set things up. And she said she did her one dish. And as they were finishing the meal, one of them said, do you know, I believe that this was one of the best holiday dinners we've ever had. Everybody did something. They contributed and they felt very good about it. And there does come a time when we do have to pass the baton to another generation. And in her case, it was going to be progressive. Things were not going to get better for her husband. So think about the word grace, having the grace, and also humility. Having the humility and the grace to say you need some help and yet give people the opportunity to help you without your hand on the scale directing everything that does happen. Because she said that people were bringing what was traditional anyway. Okay, the next idea, be flexible with shopping and gift giving. Shopping online, some of you feel comfortable with that, some don't. Making a list, asking someone else to do your shopping and or to mail packages for you. I imagine it's probably maybe, if not past the date to mail, it may be pretty soon. Arrange for someone to help the loved one shop if it would make them happy to give you a present too. And again, they may no longer be able to make those decisions, or it may be you don't want them to pick a gift for you. But think in terms of sometimes something even small and it's more of a gesture can mean a lot. And in asking people or in giving gifts, I think most people, especially as we age, we don't need any more things to sit around. We need, and you probably do, gift cards for food or DoorDash or um, Uber, things like that, practical things. And you know who that gave that to you, so it still has meaning for you. Another idea is invite holiday visitors, but probably in lot smaller groups. And not a big party, but to come over and have tea, have coffee, have dessert, something that you don't have to do a lot of preparation for. Some people, hopefully, their loved one is not in the hospital, but hospitals are used to a lot of small groups being in the rooms. And it's possible that if your family member's in the hospital, maybe one of your adult children could take a gift to them there if they can enjoy it. If you're traveling, another idea, whether your loved one is coming with you on a trip or they have to go somewhere, some of you no longer feel comfortable perhaps with the loved one, perhaps flying or driving by themselves. So you may have to be very delicate in how you negotiate offering to drive or ride along and help out that loved one. Looking ahead always for the weather and the time of the day, where you're going, how long it's going to take. And there are many, many checklists online that actually will address traveling with an older adult or traveling with someone who has a physical disability, who has a chronic illness. You'll find many checklists that will help you prepare for that. And some of these checklists may even help you decide, oh, do I really want to do that? I'm not sure. Think in terms of respite. Now, the word respite means relief. You may find because of the activities of the holidays that you're just genuinely tired and you need someone to come and stay with your loved one for a couple of hours so you can take a nap or go run some errands or go see some friends. Think about people that maybe your loved one hasn't seen for a while. I remember in one case, the gentleman, he was caring for his wife, and who he had to come over was somebody he knew from work. He was retired, but he hadn't even thought of that person. So that person came to his home and they had coffee and just reminisced while the loved one was there. Or you might want to just get out. So you decide who that is. And again, asking for help, ask someone to come and stay with your loved one. This is what happened with me over the weekend. I had a lovely friend of mine. She was 87, but she agreed to a clinical trial procedure that went wrong. And because of some other conditions she had, it triggered something else. And she did pass away. All of her family live in other states. So I became the boots on the ground for her. I did her laundry for months. And when she went to different facilities, when they couldn't be here, I was there. So they had asked me they were very gracious about it. If I had time to go over and stand by while somebody packed up her independent living apartment. So my sister-in-law was ill, her husband was ill, my niece was ill. She wasn't ill, excuse me. She was out of town picking up her son from boot camp, of all things. So what I did is called my best friend and I started with, what are you doing today? Or what are you doing tomorrow? And she said that she didn't have anything that was important. So she knows my husband. So she came over and stayed with my husband a couple of hours so I could go and help out or stand by while my friend's apartment was being packed up. And my husband was okay with that. And that is an issue that many of you may have to deal with, is they don't want anybody but you in the house. Anybody, even though Chuck knew Tina very well, I think there's sometimes a fear. You may have to negotiate with that. You may have to try it an hour at a time or do something that helps to guide them into it. Because if you refuse, your tank's going to run out. If you don't feel like you can leave them while they stay with somebody else or they stay with even a paid service. Think about that. And last but not least, stop, breathe, feel the joy. It's easy to get caught up in the frenzy. Be mindful of the individual moments that make our time worthwhile, especially those moments that my mother and I had a very difficult, but we were very close. And we would sometimes laugh when we would get on each other's other side. Find things to laugh about, whether that's a movie or radio or whatever. Find things to laugh about. And everybody stop right now before we open it up for questions. And I want you to, if you would, focus on something in the room. Just look at it. It could be something outside also. Maybe if your windows, you could look at outside and find something to focus on. Right now, I'm looking at something as simple as there is a dried flower on my desk. So I'm looking at that. Find something that you can look at and then empty the breath out and then breathe in, 2, 3, 4, pause, out, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, pause, 2, 3, 4. Now at your own pace, breathe in as deeply as is comfortable. Breathe out that count or an additional count, and do that a couple of times. And most people find that they do start to relax. We frequently carry stress and tension in our shoulders and neck, and men frequently carry their stress and tension in their back. But whoever you are, just be conscious of relaxing. That's your only task right now, is to relax and let go. Relax and let go. Relax and let go. Take a moment and to yourself, list 3 things that you're grateful for today. 3 things that you're grateful for that may have nothing to do with the holidays. One more deep breath. Someone has put on the screen that she knows she's taking my brother to the movies to see Godzilla as a form of a present. So we both love that character. So going there, she's going to accomplish a lot. She's with her brother. They're going to see a movie together, a shared experience. And there's probably some laughter there too. So how about the rest of you? Can you put into chat one thing that you're going to do differently just because of what we've talked about today? One thing you want to do differently. Can you type it into chat? Taking time to myself, period. There you go. Taking time for me. Anybody else? And while you're thinking, remember there are many things you can do on your own. I never got any benefit from adult coloring books, to where you can get those online or an entire book. That was not something I got a lot out of. I love to read. I do audiobooks, and for some strange reason, I find folding towels very restful. Now, I'm not going to go dirty a bunch so that I can fold them, but that's one thing that I find that's very soothing, and it's something I see an immediate result from it. While you're thinking, just some other ideas, and I'm going to send you about 20 of them. Tell the person you love them. Sometimes it's hard. You may not like them every minute of every day, but tell them that you love them. Dorsey says, I color Snoopy and Charlie Brown books, and it is so relaxing to me. How awesome. Chuck my husband has often told me that he loves the Charlie Brown tree, the Peanuts and Snoopy tree, the one that looks like a stick and it has a few naked branches with one little red ball on it. And my wonderful mother-in-law and father-in-law were here one year, and they went off, Chuck and his mom went off shopping, and they came back with one of those. So when Chuck was in the rehab hospital, I took the Charlie Brown up to his room, and the staff got a big kick out of it. I don't know how much he appreciated it, but that is our tree this year, is the Charlie Brown tree. It looks kind of lonely over on the hearth by itself, but I did minimum decorations, and that's another idea. Minimum decorations, but I did do decoration because that brings me comfort. I described my minimal decorations was like comfort food for me right now. I didn't need to do a lot of decorating, but some helped me stay in the spirit, and I love the colors and the lights and just the overall feeling of it. Anybody else want to share how you're going to make this holiday easier for you and your loved one? I'm curious, how many of you ask for help? How many of you ask for help?
You can raise your hand if you like.
Everybody know how to do that? You can raise your hand or you can type Y in the chat. Whatever you want to do. Aha. It's hard to ask for help, one person said. Another one said, this is an area I'm going to work on. Lisa, can you think of even one area that you could start on that you could ask for help about? The first thing that comes to mind that you would like to ask help with. That's okay. The list may be so long, huh? I want to encourage you to go on YouTube, all of you, and look for things, put in terms like laughter during the holidays. There are a lot of movies that are fun. We used to watch Christmas Vacation every year. There is a guy who juggles, he's British, and his thing is just 5 minutes, and he juggles while he talks about how little time it takes to relax a little bit. And Lisa said it's hard to ask for help, and yes, it is too long to get into. But just think about how, Lisa, think about maybe if you could talk to somebody that you really respect and maybe ask them for guidance on how could I get some help this year? And again, start small, because one small success can lead to another one. So what's the biggest thing you got out of our discussion today? Any of you? What's the biggest thing you got out of it? And if I don't hear from anybody, I want to share. Years ago, I put together a list that you're going to be getting, and it says practical stress management tips, especially during the holidays. And I'm going to share these with you, but not talk about them unless somebody puts their hand up that they want to talk about it. Number one, lower your expectations. Does that ring true to any of you? Lower your expectations. It's probably going to be different. Whatever is happening this year, it's probably going to be different. Back over. This I'm getting from our website, these ideas. Recognize your limits. We all have them. When you're a caregiver, it's very normal that we push ourselves past our limits and then pay the price. Be realistic. Be realistic. Is this doable? And if it is doable, at what price? Keep it simple and sane. Make lists and do what's written on them. And if you know you're not going to be able to get to it, don't put it on the list. I remember one time in time management, make a list. And if you haven't done something on that list for 3 days, take it off the list and move it, park it somewhere. Put it in a parking lot. Prioritize. What is the most important? Set limits and boundaries. And that means learning to say no. And to what can you say no and not apologize for? The next idea is decide and take action. Decide and take action. Procrastination can sometimes be one of the biggest sources of stress there is. Don't you agree? Breathe deeply several times a day. Slow down. That's one of my challenges. Be kind to yourself. Practice your faith. Keep your sense of humor. Watch the amount and types of food you eat. Get as much sleep and rest as you can. Schedule time for yourself, respite for yourself, whether that's napping when your loved one does or when they're involved in something else. Then do your hobby or color your book or take a snooze. Do what you need to do to refill your bucket or to breathe into your mask, or any of those different ways that we talked about how you can run out of steam. Make exercise a priority, even walking out to the mailbox, parking out in the parking lot, away from the building so that you have to walk further. Have some fun. Listen to music. Maybe there are favorite holiday music that you like to listen to. Limit your shopping. Shop early. Ask for help. Here's one. Let go of what you cannot control. Let go of what you cannot control. and take the initiative to influence what you can control. That's a huge statement right there, and I encourage you to think about that one. Reframe how you see situations and people. During the holidays, we have to reframe how we see what's going to happen this year, reframe what is the new normal, reframe that some people in your family may not be the way they used to be. Remember the good times. Tell people that you love them. Take one day at a time and value it for what it is. Find the spark in the relationship between you and your loved one. What is the best part of the relationships you have with friends, family, mates, and others? Recognize how harmful it is of expecting everything to be perfect, and take steps to be more flexible. Remind yourself about the high cost of worry and the low rate of return. Most of what we worry about never happens that way. It happens another way that we couldn't possibly have worried about. And we don't get much out of worry. I tell people I come from a long line of world-class worriers. And as an adult, I have worked hard on that. I say I'm a warrior in recovery, and I do relapse, but I catch myself a lot sooner. And that has really helped me in the last few weeks because, and one of my husband's favorite phrases, and he's right, is, oh, well, what can you do about that right now? And if I can't do anything about it, oh, well, I have to accept it as it comes. I have to practice my faith. I have to trust, and I have to keep moving forward. Another point is be willing to accept that sometimes enough is okay. Respond, don't react. Big difference between those two. In a reaction, it's usually emotional. You push me, I'll push you back. But a response is, what's happening here that you're pushing me? What's going on here? And remember what the holidays are all about. All right, with that, and you're going to get these links so that you can get more benefit out of it. I hope that there are some things that are good walkaways for you today. That as you go forward the next couple of weeks, that you find some peace and maybe learned some ideas or that you hadn't thought about. And I wish you well. Take care of yourselves, and we will be back with more programs in 2024. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Zanda.